Danny, having discussed your professional career in which you have had such success and distinction, so can you tell me how you started the firm off and why?
Again, it relates a little bit to the disability issue. Articles, I was very lucky. When I came back from Israel, someone who had also been brought up in Sunderland was a partner in a big firm, a big Jewish firm in London, Paisley's. I had an interview which was almost a formality, and I got articles at that firm. When it came to the end of my articles, I hadn't been overly happy there, and I wanted to move. And I applied for loads of jobs, and although the interviews were fine, I rarely heard anything. There was only one occasion when I did, and I was accepted, subject to the principal's reference. And a couple of weeks later, I got a letter saying, unfortunately, you have not got the job. I went ballistic. I went up and saw the principal, Leslie Payson, and I said, what the hell is going on here? He said, I don't know. He said, I just told him that as you were a newly qualified person, you know, you had certain limitations. Anyway, I didn't get the job. 2 or 3 weeks later, I actually went for another interview. And when I came out, I met my old friend Stuart Stern on the steps of the office. Now Stuart, I had met on the first day at University College. We'd spent the whole 3 years more or less together. We'd been articled together, and we had lunch, and we decided to open up a practice. We had 2 files. One was my mother-in-law, and the other was an old friend of Stuart's. I was very fortunate that an old friend of my father's lent us some capital, which we hardly used, but that enabled us to set up. I've always had a very low boarding threshold, and I always did whatever new work came in. We got oil work, I helped with the oil work. We did computer work, I did computer work. I did all kinds. And even with my disability, I traveled quite a lot. Before we even joined the common market, I used to travel a great deal to France and Belgium. I used to act for a small airline, and I often used to travel on a Dakota, an old World War II Dakota, over to France and Belgium. I went to Belize. Anybody here know where Belize is? Belize is the only English-speaking country in Central America. And most of all, and the most important place I went to, because I went 4 or 5 times on business, was Cuba. One of the partners of the firm was a guy called Mike Hunter, and he had introduced indirectly the Cuban trading arm. Mike went on Allianz, and I inherited the Cuban connection. I acted for various Cuban entities, but the most important of which was the Banco Central de Cuba, the Cuban central bank, and they actually took me over to Cuba 4 or 5 times. But I will never forget the first time I went, because they said to me, you must meet one of your people, Jacobo. So I go in and I meet Jacobo, one of the directors of the Banco. And I said to him, Jacobo, is there anything I can do for you? And he said, look, since my sister went to live in Miami, I've never had any gefilte fish. I said, what? So I got home, the first thing I did is I bought some Manischewitz's gefilte fish, and the next time somebody went over to Cuba, they took it. I thought he's going to be delighted. So what happens? He phones me up, he says, thanks for the gefilte fish. Well, what about the crane? I don't know about the crane. So the next time somebody else went, we sent the crane. to Alaska, where we were buying airplanes, would you believe? And it was quite interesting because the guy had been a couple of times himself to try and buy the airplanes. And I said to him, look, be honest with me. If I'd have been with you, would you have done the deal? And he said, I've got to be honest, I might have. I said, did you not go because you saw the dollar signs flashing in front of your eyes? And he said, yes, that was the reason. So I said, look, I'll do a deal with you. You pay all the expenses, and I won't charge you at all unless we do the deal. So off we went to Alaska. We went to Alaska, we flew down to Seattle, we flew back to Alaska, and then we came back to England, all in about 72 hours. And on the way back, I said to him, Peter, how was it? He said, it was great. I said, can I charge you anyway, even if we don't do the deal? And he said, yes. And we didn't do the deal, and I charged him.
You're there in a desert island on your own. How do you think you'll manage on a desert island?
Well, I'll enjoy the conversation.
Try and escape, Danny?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm very much a people person. And I think I would miss very, very much Ruth, the children, and the grandchildren. I mean, after all, Ruth and I have been together now for very nearly 50 years. Funnily enough, you never asked me, and I never said how we met. Well, actually, we both had flats in Hendon. And although we had flats in Hendon, our paths rarely crossed. However, about 6 months or so after she graduated, and she'd come back to London, I happened to be spending the weekend with my closest friend, Aaron Turner's brother, Mike, and his new wife, and they were going to the cinema after Shabbat. And they asked me if I'd like to go, and I was very tempted, but then I recalled that another close friend of mine was about to go on Aliyah and was throwing a party. And I said, I think I'd better go to that party. And so off I went to Chiswick, of all places. And there I encountered Ruth again. And I took her home. I took her out. And that was the beginning of the story.
And you're allowed, I've got a few questions to ask you now.
Oh, yeah.
Your luxury. Danny,
My luxury? Well, again, it's a very obvious thing. I think I'd want a solar-powered, four-wheel drive scooter.
Top of the range, Danny.
Oh, absolutely.
The Hertzgummish, Shakespeare, the Chief Rabbi's Green Siddur, a complete set of Art Scroll.
Whatever.
You're allowed another book. Incredibly, you're allowed another book. What would you choose?
Well, I must tell you, what I wanted to do, I said to Warren, what I'd like to do is to raise money for the show. I'd like to say, if people sort of put in a fiver and wrote down what they thought the book was, if they were right, I would give them 20 quid. And the reason is, I don't think anybody would have guessed. I think what I asked for was the Loeb edition of the complete works of Josephus in Greek and English.
Danny, one last question. There's a tidal wave. 6 out of the 7 records are disappearing in the waves. And which one would you choose? This is the only question I have to say I don't know the answer to. No idea what he's going to say.
Not only you. It's very difficult. I think because they're all so, they've all got such meaning for me. But I think probably at the end of the day, for purely emotional reasons, I would choose Amisroel.
I knew you would say that.
A wonderful choice. Danny, thank you very much for sharing with us your